Right. Okay, I'm ready. Are you guys ready? We can start. Fantastic. Good morning and welcome to Pragma's Virtual International Client Appreciation event. I am Lisa Schroeder. I'm the Marketing and Brand Manager for Pragma. Co-hosting with me online is Melanie Daniels, who will look at all your comments and will monitor all your questions and answers, or questions rather, and she will also be co-hosting with me. On my left-hand side, your right-hand side maybe, I've got Adrian Skieris. He is Pragma's CEO, and he's also the co-founder of Pragma. And on my right-hand side, we have Stefan Cornelius. He is the Managing Director of Pragma Advisory and Academy Business Unit.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, Stefan.
So.
Great, yes. So thanks to technology, today is the first time that we have all our clients from across the globe in one event, or virtual room for that sake. And it's an absolute privilege and honor for us to host you at this event. We trust that you will find the program informative and thought-provoking, and that you will have a lot of food for thought to take home to your businesses after today's event. Today, we also want to thank each one of you for your contribution towards the success of our shared partnership with you. Thank you for entrusting all your assets, your buildings, your mines, your plants, your hotels, your hospitals, whatever it is that you are responsible for. Thank you for entrusting that to Pragma. It is our absolute endeavor to ensure that we as a company make sure that you are sustainable in your asset management programs and that you will be able to support your businesses in reaching their targets in support of their strategies. We know that responsible asset owners are very serious about the balance of performance, cost, and risk. And that is what we are here to help you with. So the global turmoil of the past year or two, or no, it's nearly 2.5 years by now with COVID, has been a very big test for many companies around the globe. And we noticed that some companies kept on thriving, while others struggled, but they made it through, and yet another bunch didn't make it, and they literally had to close their doors. So the one thing that we noticed of this is that the companies that managed to quickly adjust, to be agile, and who were resourceful were the companies who actually made it through the pandemic. So today, with us sitting here around the table, you on the other end of the camera, you've also made it through this pandemic. And although we made it through, we want to make sure that we are all future-proof and ready for maybe further events that can come our way and that can have a big impact on the world. We here in the southern tip of Africa, in South Africa, are feeling the effect of the war in Europe. So we are not free from all of this. So we need to make sure that we're all together going to rethink, reimagine, and reinvent our approach to asset management. And that is how we scheduled our program for today, to look at these things and make sure that everybody can look at it in a more informative way and start looking at innovation. Before we jump right into the program and start with our HSSE moment, I would quickly like to just inform you that today's recording is recorded, or today's session rather is recorded. We will make it available to you via email when you have the opportunity to share it in your companies, with your teams, with your management teams, to make sure that you're all on the same page in terms of innovation and reimagining the way that you look at asset management. As I mentioned before, there's a button at the bottom of your screen where you can go and ask your questions, and Melanie will look at that and make sure that if a client or a presenter has time, that they will respond to your questions. If not, we will respond by email and send it through to you in that way. Today's program is also divided in two parts. The first going to be Pieter Geldenhuys, Stefan Cornelius, and Adrian Skieris speaking to us. Then we'll have a quick leg stretch, depending on how much time we have. And after that, Dr. Van Houston will speak to us, followed by two client testimonies, and we'll end off the day with a lovely fun event, which includes a prize. So Mel, you're welcome to share your screen. Melania is going to do the HSSE moment for us and take us through some interesting things that she discovered. Thanks, Mel. Over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. You should be seeing my screen at the moment. Can you see my screen, the program?
We can see the program. You can move on to the next. Yes.
Thank you. So very warm welcome from myself to our clients today. So I will start off with our HSSE moment, which is about a worldwide threat named cybersecurity. I'm sure you're aware of it by now, but I just wanted to do some stats for us, some live stats for us on cybersecurity today. So this is a live website, and from the beginning of the worldwide lockdowns, businesses have tried to restructure their operations to function partially or fully online, while the general population has relied upon the internet for shopping, work, and almost everything else. These cyber statistics, facts, and trends showing in your screen right now shows us how cyber criminals continue to adapt to take advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic. The live map on the screen as we see it indicates threats made across the world. And the live lines that shows directions, indicate which countries are attacked and from where these threats originate. On average, the website traces about 50 million attacks daily. And today is not far from that. Today's stats shows us on the screen, we are very close to that 50 million threats, number of attacks that's happening. Our top targeted countries, as we can see on the top right-hand side, is Mongolia, Nepal, Georgia, Angola, and Taiwan. Interestingly, the top targeted industries are education, government, and communications. This has been more or less the status quo since I looked at the website last week. The highest malware recorded on this website, this particular website, is adware, meaning malicious tracking systems to redirect one to deceptive ads and suspicious websites. I think most of us have had some experience with adware before. The second one is backdoor. That's a means to access a computer system or encrypted data that bypasses the system's customary security mechanisms. So, and bonnet is also our third one that's indicated on this live website. So we will be sharing this website's details with you if you want to have some fun and also keep it on your second monitor. Just to monitor, I think it's quite interesting to see how the lines move from one country to the other in all directions. I think the key takeaways for today then are the rate of cybercrime has increased by 600% during the COVID-19 pandemic. The financial sector suffered the largest financial losses in 2020. And thirdly, the total cost of all cybercrime damages in 2021 is expected to tally up to about $6 trillion worldwide. So thankfully, Pragma has taken the initiative to prepare our systems, our policies, and best practice procedures to become ISO 27001 compliant by taking our cybersecurity to the next level. That's it from my side. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Mel.
Sure.
Adrian, any comment on that?
Yeah, it's if I look at that stats, I saw that website a few days ago when we were doing the preparation, and I was astonished about first of all the technology that's there to trace all these things, but secondly the real threat. If you think about 15 million a day, it's like so one must be really careful how you go about in terms of using your environment, but also make sure that like in Pragma, that the CIOs is on top of security, via the web, and that we, that we spend the right amount of money and time, because we've seen that South African companies have engaged with a number of CEOs that was, their computer systems were down and they were held ransom for a big amount of money, and that's a real issue. So from that point of view, just thanks Mel for that and sharing it to our clients. Make sure that your environments are safe, and that those gates are tight and the locks and keys is on.
It's on there. Thanks, Adrian. Our keynote speaker for today is Peter Geldenhuys. Peter, you are more than welcome to start sharing your screen with us. Peter is South African, so we are very proudly South African this morning in terms of our speakers. And Peter is a futurist, and he's a director at the Institute for Technology, Strategy and Innovation. So his topic, 3 men and an elephant, is quite peculiar, but I think you will be quite surprised with what is going to come from this talk. Peter, over to you.
Thank you so very much. A hearty good welcome to all of you all around the globe. The 3 men and an elephant is actually the conclusion of a 3-day journey. And it's really interesting. I hope that you are seeing the right version of the presentation. If I can just double check on your side, if you see the proper one or the
one with the
presenter one.
Yes.
As long as you see the correct version, that's perfect on my end. So what is important in terms of this presentation is that it's a conclusion of a discussion after 2 whole days. But, when I proposed the 2-day seminar, they said, not a chance, 30 minutes is all you have. So better put on your safety belts, because I'm going to take you on a very interesting journey around how we unpack the future. So when we talk about what the future looks like, this very interesting gentleman by the name of William Gibson said, the future has already happened. It is just unequally distributed. Well, in a way, most of the trends, the mega trends, which everyone agrees upon, is in the middle of our radar. But it's those weak signals at the edges that might take us for a loop. Think of COVID-19 and how that completely changed the course of our short-term human history. But when we talk about the future, there are 3 things we need to consider. 1, how do we explore the future? What are the trends that will shape the world around us? Actually, more important, secondly, how do we unlock the opportunities of the future? How can we harness technologies in order to change business models? And this means we become a proactive agent in shaping or creating the future. And then finally, realizing that the future is this complex, uncertain, unpredictable space. And that's why you need a different mindset, a mindset called complex adaptive systems. And that's really where the 3 men and an elephant comes in. So to provide context for all of this, I have to go through all 3 phases, and I've got 5 minutes to do so. So let me quickly share with you, what are some of the major megatrends which will shape our world and have an impact on you? Well, firstly, there's demographics. Unbelievable growth in Africa, around the world. But although there's growth in Africa, we are seeing a decline in population numbers in other parts of the world. Other parts of the world, we're actually seeing a demographic implosion. Places like Japan, China, even Germany and Europe. In Japan, they're selling more adult nappies than baby nappies, if you want to believe that. All the growing population with a youth that simply isn't there to pick up the slack. This has got huge implications for jobs, for scarcity of skills, for exports. If we take a look at Germany and Europe, we are actually seeing a far smaller population in years ahead. This is quite concerning, because this will lead us to one of the major megatrends not a lot of people are talking about. Why? In our consumption-led economy, it's all driven in a huge way by affluent 25-year-olds. Because at that point in your life, you start spending for the next 20 odd years. It's spend as you get kids. So when you want to take a look at a demographic and you want to look at consumption patterns, you focus on the amount of affluent 25-year-olds. And the world is running out of them, which means that somewhere in the next decade and a half, we might hit peak consumption. For the past 200 odd years, we had exponential population growth, and with it, a growth of a company. Every year, there's a 3 or 4% growth in your business. Well, by 2035, you're going to see board reports that said, we are proud to announce that we only lost 2% market share. So you'll find out that this is going to be quite interesting how the world will shape in the next couple of years. There's one country, however, affluent country, which is not looking too bad. The prettiest horse in the glue factory, the US of America, but they've got their own problems because America is kind of big enough not to worry about the rest of the world. If we take Canada and Mexico out of the equation, only 5% of the American GDP is related to international trade. Well, the reason why they keep the world safe is for trade and for security policies and for energy security. But the US isn't so reliant on the Middle East anymore for energy, which brings us to point number 2, decoupling, where a number of countries will want to decouple themselves from the world global trade to stop these disruptions, which might impact car production or so forth. That's trend number 2. Trend number 3, multiple countries are now trying to copy these trade blocks that we've seen around the world in more regional trade blocks. We see that with Belt and Road in China, leading to multiple power blocks. And lastly, this unbelievable amount of debt that we see in the world, where the credit has been extended. We now see unbelievable amount of credit slushing through our system. And all of this is fine if your interest rate is low, because then governments can pay back that debt over a 50-year period. But the moment your inflation rate goes up and you have to create high interest rates, we are looking at a horrible scenario as far as economic growth is concerned. Those are the 4 major megatrends, all very, very sobering. And you might say, but Peter, this is called a depression session. Why are we talking about it? Well, the reason behind it is, what can we do about geopolitics and economics? We can't do much, but what we can do is we can harness the power of technology. We can change our business models. We can allow our minds to explore new opportunities in the world of what is and what is possible and what should be. And because of that, we can create a deflationary impact, because we can make our environment far more efficient. And that's really the core discussion. So let's briefly go over to the second phase of my presentation. 1, where we explored the megatrends. 2, let's take a look at the new technologies out there and how we can embrace them to unlock a new opportunity. We all know what's going to happen with 5G. Unbelievable connectivity wherever you go on multiple frequencies, from IoT devices to broadband communication. We're entering an era not only of augmented reality, but with IoT covering everything and everyone. And this means that we can harness that in a variety of ways. One way we can harness it is what we call digital adoption. This is where we adopt digital technologies to improve our processes. One of them is the Hololens. We can, for example, do far better training with Hololens. New staff coming in due to that skill shortage. We might have a shortage of trainers. Now you can use the Hololens to make sure that people are updated on the latest thinking and development. Then we look at digital transformation. And in digital transformation, we literally redefine the entire value chain and make it more efficient. I normally hate showing a video in a presentation, but I think this video, it's about 3 years old, is still worthwhile. So take a look at the video of Tyson Krupp and how they use the HoloLens, not only to adopt it, but to fundamentally alter their entire value chain. Take a look.
Over 1 billion people ride elevators each day, which places the industry in a primary role to respond to the challenges of urbanization. ThyssenKrupp's mission is to drive the elevator industry. We want to do better and want to really push the envelope for what we do.
Enable our people to use the latest technology possible and available. And Hololens is such a device where we see potential to serve our customers better.
The introduction of Hololens to our operations will empower the over 20,000 field service engineers in doing the job better, more efficient. Increasing availability of elevators and escalators makes the job more safe and more fun for our people as well.
The scenario we have developed is really about dispatching a service technician using HoloLens in very different kind of ways.
So as soon as the technician puts on his HoloLens, he already sees, I have a call here, I need to go to this elevator, and then actually sees a 3D picture of the elevator that he's going to work on, and that he can zoom into a part that will offer you also training opportunities.
He goes to the job site prepared, probably better prepared than ever before, because he has the relevant data available to him in the best format possible, and in a variety of ways he can tailor the data towards his need.
The technician putting on his HoloLens, looking at the elevator, sees the historical notes first. So what has actually happened with this elevator before? He already has all the information right there without having to look for it. It saves a lot of time and a lot of stress and effort.
Gets information on his virtual desktop about the task orders he has to carry out,
The latest safety alerts for that elevator.
He pulls on a 3D replication of that part, pulls it out in an exploded view, and can actually see which part is making the problem.
A major advantage of the HoloLens, of course, is that we are hands-free, and we never had that experience and the capability before.
In the past, the technician needed both of his hands to operate the laptop, and now he just has his HoloLens on.
One of the most important capabilities we see with HoloLens is that we can trigger a remote call to a subject matter expert.
Call Heather.
Jeff, how you doing?
I'm replacing a door guard out here, but I kind of want you to check a couple things out.
Okay, let me take a look. JP3 is in the right position and your motor lead is disconnected, so you're good to go.
it takes a lot of stress out, saves a lot of time, and our field tests have shown that there's a huge potential to increase productivity. The job, which normally takes 1 to 2 hours and maybe ends up with having the expert traveling to the site, we were able to carry it out on the first time in less than 20 minutes. What we are striving to do as a club elevator is really creating new, interesting technologies to build the city of tomorrow.
So a brief introduction into it, but I'm not trying to sell the HoloLens to you. I'm giving you an insight into how this technology shapes the world of productivity. There's no paperwork for the individual to sign up, and we can do that without a HoloLens. We can do it with a phone app to see if the person is on the site, and that automatically means that the logging is automatically done. Why do we worry about paperwork and the writing in login reports when an automated solution can free the hands of a repairman? Far better. I mean, have you appointed him to repair things or to become a clerk in, filling in countless paper forms? What we are seeing is that this digital world is changing it. We have online support skills that might only be available in one country can now immediately via a telematic environment look over the shoulder of someone, and you can even do it with your mobile phone. So a number of these scenarios play a role. Think of the billing process, where billing is therefore no longer manual, and you can record and capture all of these things in a blockchain, which means that it's fully audited at the end. And that means that at the end of the day, you can very, very simply just ensure that the entire billing process is automated as well. This is how technology plays a fundamental role in making our world far more efficient. Think of the shortage of nurses, for example, or the long amount of time they need to it takes for them to write down the temperature and blood pressure and so forth. Now with new technology that we can simply hook onto someone that can immediately get that information almost momentarily. So that's a brief insight. Digital disruption, however, is where the entire value chain can change, and to such an extent that it disrupts the market. In the same way that Rolls-Royce and General Electric no longer sell engines, they sell thrust, but they maintain the engine in tip-top shape, and that creates a whole new environment. Think, for example, of a digital twin in gas delivery, with little ultra-wideband chips on them, and the people that distribute them also having a chip. You can immediately know which specific canister had left the warehouse at which point with which driver. When it's delivered, there's a green light or a red light at the back of the truck. When the wrong canister is taken off the truck at that geolocation, it immediately shows. If the right one is taken off, a green light shows. As you take it into the yard, the billing is automatically done because there's a digital twin even for a gas canister. Imagine the problems you can save in terms of incorrect billing, incorrect delivery, the risk factor of delivering the wrong type of gas to the wrong consumer. These are wonderful opportunities where the digital twin can redefine that space. And what we are seeing is where technology plays a significant role in reducing all of the losses, in making sure that the same amount of people can deliver so much more. That brings us to the final presentation. So the problem is that in a complex environment, individuals don't act like automated or programmable units. They are humans. And therefore, that makes our world complex. And unfortunately, this mindset of utilizing the ontology of physics or the thinking of physics, where the cause and effect relationship is predictable and repeatable. That doesn't work in the world of human systems. And I'm briefly going to give you some insights into that domain. That means we need to look at the world from a different perspective, not a world that is predictable. In a marketing campaign, we can launch something, but we can't guarantee the success of it. Therefore, we need to talk about different things. In the same way, we can launch certain innovations, which worked wonderfully in one country, but we try it in another country and it utterly fails. That's the reason why we need a new vocabulary in order to understand the world of complexity. And that's why we talk about 3 men and an elephant, where we need to look at reality through different lenses, because otherwise we don't see the entire elephant. What's really important is our idea of models, because in the world of science, if a model fails once, it fails forever. But in the world of human sciences, if it works 80% of the time, we're ecstatic. I think that's one of the key challenges we face, because sometimes we come up with brilliant ideas, and then when we make a measure a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Let me give you a brief example. So in India, a couple of decades ago, a huge problem with snake bites. So the Brits, in all of their wisdom, said, okay, we'll give money for everyone that brings a dead snake in. And you know, the snake bites just continued. And a year after that, the snake bites continued. And a year after that, it still continued. And they wondered, how the hell can there be so many snakes? And it's costing us a lot of money. So when they stepped out of their ivory towers, what did they realize? The Indians started to breed snakes because the British is giving him money for it. Right, you get the movie. So when we start thinking of certain solutions, we have to be real careful, because in the human world, we get an anti-story happening extremely quickly. And therefore, a different mindset is required in order to unlock these opportunities. And that brings us to where we go next. A good description of a human system is the system itself. I have got 15 minutes left. In 15 minutes, I need to talk about this world of complex adaptive systems and the new words that we can use in it. I have never done this in 15 minutes. I think the closest time I had was about a day and a half, but here goes nonetheless. 5 words that hopefully will change your world. The first word we need to talk about is something called the fitness landscape. We see this with viruses competing with each other. You know, there's close to about 100,000 COVID variants out there, but there's only a few of them that would survive a next iteration of evolution, because the one virus will be better adapted to an environment than the other one, and they become the dominant one. We've seen it with Delta, we've seen it with Omicron. As we see these mutations in the viruses, and the dominant one emerges. So when there's a disruption on the system, sometimes business models, companies, technologies are the ones that create this world of dominance. And it's not a question of the market and the technology. It's this combination of both, that in a disruption, now that we've seen with COVID, a whole new ecosystem might emerge in the world after it. That's the first word, a fitness landscape. And this has got huge implications for how we view strategy and innovation and so forth. In a static world, it's very easy to plan to dominate at the top peak because we know what the map looks like and it's nice and clear. In a world of complexity, our actions changes the map. It changes the landscape, and we don't know what the landscape looks like. So the best way is to experiment. 10 people that you drop off across the landscape with parachutes, and you want them to experiment with what's new. And perhaps it might not be efficiency, because you're not going to tell these 10 men to only walk up, because they might be on a small hill. And when the clouds leave, an entire different picture may emerge. But that means that through agility, listening to your customer and being agile and changing your mindsets around the use of technology can unlock new opportunities. That brings us to word number 3. You know, those attractors you've seen in the landscape? What's really, really interesting is that in a period of change, we have a unique opportunity that a small little thing might actually change the adoption. One of the interesting examples is Facebook. They were up against a company like MySpace, and by creating a small little change on their website, on Facebook, relationship status, and making sure that if you look at the page of a girl without you knowing that she knows you've looked, that small change meant that a new attractor changed. Nowadays, people don't use Facebook for dating anymore, but that attractor has formed, and now you can take that attractor with you. That means that being sensitive to your customers, trying certain things, some which may work, some which may not, you can then try and create this complex dance between your service offering and their need in order to create a new attractor. And once you see that they adopt this as a new way of working, you can then solidify that and making it something that you can roll out across the organization. Now, the point I want to make is when we talk about a driver, we can predict the outcome of our actions. A modulator, however, is an action we take, but we've got no idea what impact it has on the environment. And the only way we can test what the impact is to actually try the modulator and then change the modulator until a pattern emerges that is to our satisfaction, which brings us to point number 5, emergence. So what's the best way to put pathways down in a corporate park? Get an expert in? No, you plant grass. Then you see where people walk. Where they walk, that's where you put the pathways. So let's use our environment to help shape solutions in this ecosystem. And let me give you a practical example how it's done. This is the Magic Roundabout in Swindon in the United Kingdom. Big problem they have because on the one side, they've got Intel EU headquarters. The other end, there's a highway coming in, schools, a city center, a sports stadium. They never know where the next big influx of traffic will come from. So putting traffic lights down there is a non-starter. So they came up with this, the Magic Roundabout. Take a look at that thing. A big circle in the middle and 5 little clockwise circles on the sides with an anti-clockwise circle in the middle with different islands and different lanes. And over here, they've got 3 lanes, and over there, they've got 4, and over there, they've got 2. So it's actually quite simple because you can automatically reroute around any traffic problem. But if there's a traffic holdup in one end, you can automatically choose to take another route to your favorite exit or destination. Making sense? Don't worry about it. What is important is this. You see, how did the guys create this Magic Roundabout? They didn't simply just go one day and painted it and everything worked. No, they didn't. They put traffic cones down. So they put these traffic cones down. Remember, we talked about modulators, right? So you put these traffic cones down to see which patterns of behavior they can get right. So they put a probe in. Let's see if it works. Can they predict the outcome? No, they can't. So they take a look at what's the impact of that action. What is the traffic patterns? Is it better or worse? Then they create 3 lanes or 4 lanes or create a smaller circle or a longer circle. And over time, the optimal design emerged. You get the language? We create attractors utilizing certain strange attractors to look at behavior patterns that form around these circles. That gives us a new landscape of behavior. And we utilize that utilizing modulators to look at emergent behavior. Brand new words, but you know what's self-evident, because in complex systems, we should stop thinking that we can predict what the outcome of our actions will be, because the world will react accordingly. There's an interesting model called the Kinetic model that kind of signifies this and also talks about how it's done. Just for interest's sake, from a strategic innovation level, Ford have split their IT department in 2. The one focuses on self-driving cars, the world of physics, predictability. You don't want to make mistakes here. The other one on the user interface on their vehicles. Because if they try something and the user behavior patterns show a negative impact, they roll it back and they try something else. A completely different mindset. A mindset of failing fast, failing often, and failing forward. And in an environment of engineering, this doesn't mean that you choose one mindset over the other. No, the elephant is only described through multiple perspectives. So proper engineering disciplines are quite important, but our ability to roll out new services and changes to our market needs to have that agility and flexibility, because we need to remain competitive in a changing world. This is the Kinetic Framework I spoke about, the world of the obvious. This is where we can predict the outcome of our actions. Or the world of the complicated. We can still predict, but we might need to bring in an expert in a system engineering mindset. But in the world of the complex, there are multiple root causes, and the only solutions are emergent. The solutions are where we experiment not knowing if it'll work. And then we have the world of the complex, where there is no relationship possible whatsoever. So what are the ways in which we need to think in these domains? Well, in the first domain, we sense. Why isn't it working? Okay, I've seen it before. Let's go and try switching on that specific machine or reboot it. And if it works, wonderful. We sense, we categorize, we respond. Because in the world of engineering, repeatability is quite important. In the world of the complicated, where you sense, you analyze, you respond, This is where at university, for example, I swapped the hot and the cold tower taps around 6 showers because there were like 60 people in the hostel and you never know when to shower. It took the entire hostel like 4 days to realize what I've done. Why? Because the moment you take an action, there's a delay between cause and effect. So cause and effect is separated over time and space. But after some logical analysis, they could figure out what the problem was. Please don't tell them. I think it's a secret up to now. But that's the complicated domain where we can identify certain key elements that have an impact on us. But in the world of the complex, that means we can't simply copy what happens in another country and think magically it'll work in another country. We need to try a different mentality. A mentality around agile thinking, where we probe certain ideas in a safe to fail environment. So remember, multiple safe to fail experiments. So don't go and build an entire system and roll it out, then realizing that it won't work in your ecosystem, but go and probe it. Give the authority to those that experiment. Try something new, probe, you send your response. So you probe, you see, does it create an attractor? Oh, it does. Very good. Let's reinforce it. Let's probe. Oh, it's not working. Okay, let's stop the probe. Let's try something else. You remember that men in the mountain range where we try and create these attractors through our actions? And we need to realize that these attractors are an interaction between us and the customer. This is how you create the future. It's this complex dance between what you offer and what the client accepts, and then a deeper attractor forms. And if you get that right, you've got a wonderful attractor that you can take with you, and you can take your customers with you on a journey of change. And I think you've done that already by creating a solid customer base. And now you can take them on a new journey into a world of digital discovery. As far as innovation is concerned, how do we do it? It's this constant journey between these domains. Let's break the mold, try something brand new that we borrow from another industry, and let's try and see if it works. If it works, we can't solidify it. If it doesn't work, let's try some more novel experiments. And only once this attractor is formed and our customers are happy in that test, then we make it part of a more predictable day-to-day operations, and we solidify it in the business rules of our organization. This was just a brief insight into the world of complex adaptive systems, but underneath it is the foundation. It is actually the foundation for the world of agile. It's the foundation of machine learning, because now we go into a system where the outcomes are unknown. But through an agile approach, we can learn what the customer wants by being careful around our probes, how we make sense, and what we solidify at the end. I hope you'll take an interesting journey and make the right choice. So thank you so much for sharing some insights with you on this world of 3 men and an elephant. Brief overview, a number of key trends will shape our world. And hopefully the technologies and your ability to experiment in this space will stand you in very good stead. Thank you so much for your time. I think I have 2 minutes left if there's any quick chats that I can respond to. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, we've got one question, Jolene.
Of any current real-life examples where the blockchain is being used in the field of asset management? That's from Justine Pillay.
You know, I'll have to do research on that. I cannot give you an answer, but just think about it. I mean, if you have ultra wideband technology or any tracking of a capability, and you can every 10 minutes you write it into a database, that means there's no database administrator that can alter the records later. That means that you have a very, very accurate digital overview of what happened in real life. When a gas canister was delivered, at what point, which individual did it. If there was a mistake made, that's fine, but we'll pick it up in the next iteration of the blockchain. And that ability where we lock the data every 10 minutes means that there's a level of trust that you can bring in. That also, for example, means that you can have a token between countries or companies that you burn, not the normal cryptocurrency nonsense. But at the end of the day, you can then simply just say, this is the amount of money I need to pay over, and here is the proof, and it's open to any auditing firm in order to do it. That means that the entire billing runs and so forth now becomes far more automated. So I don't have an answer of an example. I'll do a bit of research and perhaps come back to you, but it's a logical conclusion to unlocking new opportunities.
Yes, no, definitely. Thank you. Justine seems happy with the answer there. Any other questions? Any comments from you two, gents?
No,
Nothing to add at the moment.
It's a bit of a scary concept to think at the pace at which things are changing, but I suppose it's the world we live in, so we have to cope with it.
Yeah, so from our side, Peter, thank you. And I think the most significant, takeaway for me is that different solutions from different companies and also different solutions in different worlds. So I think that's one of the key things that we need to understand is that a standardized model or a standardized solution is maybe not the way to go anymore. And that's one of the things that we also within Pragma really looking at to make sure that for each and every different company that we enable asset management models in the new digital world. But for each and every country and for each and every company, their digital world is different. And I think you've demonstrated that quite well with your looking at the elephant and making sure that you see the entire elephant from your perspective. So thanks for that.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I hope that the message came clear that there is an urgency to adopt this because the world is changing from a monetary, demographic perspective, a skills perspective, and the urgency for change is there. Thank you so very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. And Peter, you're welcome to drop in the notes. If your contact details, if you would like to do so, if anybody would like to reach out to you and get hold of you to help them with these models. So please type in your email address or your secretary's number or whoever so that we can get hold of you there. Thank you very much for your time. Right, next is Stefan Cornelius. As I mentioned earlier, he is the Managing Director of the Pragma Advisory and Academy Services in Pragma. It's their responsibility to look after our IP and to also keep an eye on all the trends outside, as Peter now explained, that has a direct impact on asset management. So, Stefan, please take us through some of the things that you guys are noticing in the market.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you to everybody joining us today. Now, following a speaker like Peter, I feel a bit like the next guy that has to marry Elizabeth Taylor. You know what you have to do, but you're not quite sure how you're going to make it exciting. So I hope you bear with me as we go through what we consider to be the next trends in asset management. It's a very much more narrow focus than the one that Peter took. And it's what we are seeing coming out of our own environment, the way that we shape our services, but also what we see coming from the client environment that we're asked to respond to. So without too much further ado, I'm going to get into the overview of the presentation. Now, bear in mind, we only have 20 minutes, but I'm told that Lisa is going to schedule a more detailed webinar where we can unpack these trends in a bit more detail. So if you see something that you're interested in or you have a question that we can't answer in today's session, please watch our marketing feed. We'll set up a webinar where we can go through these trends in quite a lot more detail than we have time for today. So the 4 areas that I want to quickly cover with you are the context of asset management. We know that the pandemic taught us that even the simplest tasks are disrupted by the context within which they are executed. So we're going to talk a bit about what we're seeing in terms of the context of our world of asset management, and then talk about trends in 3 key areas. The first one is the rise of digital asset management. It's been something that we've been speaking about for a while, and Peter's also alluded to it, but there's some very specific things that are coming to the fore now, which we think is worthwhile thinking about and shaping a response to in the way that we plan for our asset management environment. And we're going to talk a bit about emerging business models, which is sort of almost the commercial side of asset management and what is happening there. And then I'm very quickly going to refer to talent and learning. We've got a speaker later today that will talk very specifically about new career models inside of asset management. But I think it's worthwhile mentioning twice because the war for talent is with us and definitely going to be an issue for us going forward. So let's look at context. So as I said earlier, I think the pandemic has taught us that the context within which you do things is important, and we're certainly seeing the context within asset management changing in a few important areas. The first one is the way that assets are being designed is changing, and it's impacting what is expected from us in an asset management context. Asset owners or asset creators are focusing on things like modularization, where repairable sub-assemblies are much more prevalent than they were in the past. They're standardizing components and looking at things like reusing components across different maintenance tactics, which is definitely things that are, it impacts maintenance tactics, it impacts the spares holdings that we have in our environments. And it's an interesting consideration when you think about global supply chains and how those things are impacting a global asset network from today going forward. We are just looking at designing for maintenance, which means that tasks are being simplified. We're looking at reusability of assets. We're looking at increases of hot swaps, where downtime in manufacturing lines are being reduced by hot swaps and componentization of design. And I think it's definitely something that when we look at maintenance tactics and the skills that we need to do that, it's going to impact us. And then the increased complexity of the assets around connectivity, onboard sensors, the rise of IoT prevalence and connectivity in all of our assets is creating a consideration for us when we look at how we maintain those assets, because obviously the drive towards autonomous assets and the increased levels of connectivity has an impact on what we ask our maintenance teams to do and how we plan for those maintenance tasks going forward. The second consideration there is the emergence of new maintenance strategies, where the traditional method of rigid pre-planned preventive maintenance, the ones that we all grew up into a certain extent, is changing towards things like considering offline maintenance. We're seeing a lot of vendors placing their own workshops at client sites before maintenance events happen, so that we can do hot swaps in that environment and reduce maintenance that way. We're seeing a lot of decentralized maintenance tactics happening now. Global supply chains aren't what they used to be. We have to look at things like local sourcing and being locally relevant, where we can get the skills and the equipment to client sites and to the asset, rather than relying on an extensive transport network. A lot of focus has been given to things like opportunity maintenance, where your planning environment has to take care of, the plant is standing now, what else can we do, rather than just the task that I was planning for individually or originally, which gives us that opportunity to be more effective, but also increases the complexity of the planning cycle. We're going to talk a lot about predictive maintenance, but certainly that's something that's coming into the maintenance strategy environment. And then there's also some intelligence coming into the spares environments that support those maintenance strategies. Things like just-in-time spare provision, companies looking at optimizing working capital in that space. And that all has an implication on how we plan and execute the maintenance strategies in our environment. The third one on that context trend is the impact of the green economy. I know we have a lot of coal miners in the audience, so I'm going to be very sensitive when I talk about these things. It's an interesting topic. But when you look at maintenance and the way that our maintenance environment is changing, it used to be about emissions reporting and those types of things. But we've got a lot of emerging behavior in clients and in shareholders, where the activism is putting pressure on transparency in the decisions we make around maintenance, equipment choice, energy sources, and the like. And that's only going to continue. With the disruption of global supply chains, local content, and recycling, and the move towards zero waste are all things that are impacting us in the maintenance environment, and it's something that I think is going to be with us for the foreseeable future. And the last one is a increasing demand from employee well-being. We've seen a lot of talk in the press around mental health becoming an increasing issue during and after the pandemic. The hybrid working model has changed the dynamics in teams and within organizations. And all of it boils down to an impact on employees being able to absorb the level of change. Now, we've spoken about mental health, but the change fatigue in our employee base and also the lack of resilience or the reduced resilience in employees are all changing the way that we look at things like health and safety, training, and employee wellness. And that's certainly an issue when it comes into that asset management environment. So those are very high level, the contextual changes that we think about. And now we can get into some of the more technically focused areas of asset management. So let's look at the first trend, which is the digitization or the rise of digital asset management. Now, Peter has also alluded to the digital twin. And when I think about digital twins, I think of a topic that's had a lot of prophets, but not a lot of disciples. We've been talking about the digital twin for a long time. And for the first time since I've been with Pragma, I think the acceleration of remote work and digitization of processes has reached a point where the digital twin is really becoming a practical solution for clients, regardless of their level of digital maturity. We've also always said that having an integrated digital model of your system has a lot of advantages around efficiency, sharing performance data, all those types of engineering principles. But even in a situation where the digital maturity of clients is not great, the fact that connectivity and remote work has reached a point where the data becomes easily available and cheaply available, we're seeing a lot of benefits of asset level data collection and in things like spares forecasting, work planning, and having failure history available to do proper reliability analysis. So the age of the digital twin, although we've been talking about it for a while, given the technological changes we've seen in the last 2 years, certainly is becoming a lot more prevalent. The second point on the slide there is cybersecurity, and we've had a lot of discussions about it. I'm not going to spend too much time discussing it. Suffice to say that as we digitize our processes and we rely more on the data that we use for asset management, we actually increase the risk of compromise of those processes and systems as well. And so when we work in our own technology environment and when we work with clients, it's becoming very important to make sure that the right cybersecurity risk frameworks are in place and that we have the right technology tool sets to deal with it. The third, fourth, and fifth point on that slide is related to a larger trend in terms of clients trying to move into autonomous asset operation. We're seeing a lot of clients, especially the ones operating in austere or remote environments, are planning for assets that can be put into production and effectively left alone for a period of time unsupervised. And then certain very specific maintenance actions being taken on certain times with those assets. Now, to do that, you need three key things. The first one is the ability to monitor that asset in real time. You have to understand that prescriptive maintenance and good condition monitoring are key elements to being able to do these autonomous operations. And so we're seeing an increase in the focus on being able to monitor the asset operation and the condition of that asset in real time. Obviously, that's an expensive exercise in many cases. So the trick here is to be able to understand what to monitor, what the sensor packages look like, and what that efficient technology stack looks like to enable it. So real-time asset monitoring definitely going to be a trend for us going forward. The second one that supports that is doing something with that data in the context of artificial intelligence and machine learning. We're swimming in a sea of data, and we have for a while. And we've got a lot of clients saying to us, I don't want big data, I want useful data. And so the way to get to that point is using artificial intelligence and machine learning and teaching those algorithms what to look for. Again, in the context of autonomous operation, being able to predict issues or asset failures based on historical data is going to be key to do that. And so together with the real-time monitoring, having a good and a very practical artificial intelligence environment to be able to predict those failures is going to be an important issue. The third one there is then, closing that loop is linking the asset monitoring and the artificial intelligence capability with automated maintenance planning and execution. We spoke about prescriptive maintenance earlier, but being able to take the data and the operating environment that those assets operate in and really adapting your maintenance plans on a dynamic basis based on the real-time feedback from the plant has a lot of potential to add efficiency to the way we plan and execute maintenance. But again, it depends on that environment and the proper analysis capability to be able to respond to the way that the plant is operating. Trend number 6 is about data integration and collaboration. I think it's something that we've realized, we've known about for a while, but it's really becoming clear now that with the level of specialization in asset design, operational management, and maintenance, the single platform environment is really a thing of the past. Very few single platforms, if at all, can claim to be best of breed in any of these capabilities. And so we are going to live with an environment where we have a best of breed system for the key components of our value chain. And what we're seeing a lot of demand for now is being able to integrate the data and collaborate across those different systems. So whether it's the design data, it's the spare data, it's the performance data, or it's the failure data, all of those elements in the value chain have relevance. and are useful when they're able to be fed back into that design and execution system, which makes things like, API first architecture for system design very important, so that the interfaces and the collaboration becomes easier. The last one on the digital list is virtualization of maintenance activity. And Peter showed a nice video there about the ThyssenKrupp example. But certainly when we were in an environment where nobody was allowed to go to site, or very few people were allowed on site, virtualization of maintenance and the training of staff really became an important issue. So the concept of connected worker with the augmented reality solution is really taking off. It's been an option for like oilfield services for a number of years, where the environments are really difficult to get to, or they're really remote. But now we've moved into an environment where the technology, the connectivity, and the applications are becoming much easier to use and much more readily available. And so now we're getting into real opportunities for virtualization of things like inspections, having a remote expertise and oversight available for field workers. And it's a much more efficient way of using the skills, and also reducing things like labor rates and the types of travel expenses that people used to incur for doing certain activities. So virtualization of those activities from actual maintenance execution through training and inspections is certainly something that we think is going to be a trend for us going forward. So that's digitization. Let's move on to the next major block, which is about the emerging business models that we're seeing coming through in the asset management environment. The first one is value-based asset management. And I'll be the first one to admit that value driver trees have been around for a long time. Trying to link the value of what we do on a maintenance side through the whole production cycle and link it over to the overall income statement has been conceptually available for a long time, and frankly, very poorly understood and very poorly used in many instances. What we're seeing now is a demand for the engineering and asset management teams in an organization to get much closer in terms of aligning themselves to organizational strategy. And what that means is, as your business environment changes, as innovation and disruption that we're hearing about, you have to be able to link the allocation of resources and the way we do maintenance and when we do maintenance to that organizational strategy. So understanding those value drivers and really being able to say, how does reliability or availability or quality of production get impacted by the decisions we make on the asset management side, and being able to translate those through the value chain, it will bring our organizational alignment closer. And also will make those nasty budget discussions a lot easier when it becomes time to talk about what do we spend on maintenance and how many people do we allocate to that team. Mm-hmm. Right, I've been given the speed up, so let's do that. ROI-based business models is something that we're actually exploring practically here in South Africa. You'll hear about it a bit later during the presentation. We're seeing a lot of clients offering ROA or performance guarantees. Peter mentioned the Rolls-Royce example earlier, where asset owners or asset manufacturers are now actually contracting for the outcome or guaranteeing an outcome rather than actually selling the asset or the spares. And that has an interesting implication for what you as an asset owner or an OEM has available. Predictive analytics, the commercial model, the contracting strategies, all those types of things that surround it is something important to think about. Next one is about selecting an operating model. And we get a lot of questions from clients to say, what is the ideal organizational structure for my asset management team? And like any good consultants, we'll tell them, well, it depends on what answer you want. But taking my tongue out of my cheek for a while, decisions made around the type of OEM involvement in your plant, the way that you contract for skills, the way that you structure your geographical units, all have an implication on which skills are needed in terms of your own organization. If you have a very OEM-focused asset operation or asset maintenance strategy, for example, your ability to manage contracts and manage the commercials of contracts is much more important than the actual reliability engineering side of the house. So figuring out what is the appropriate skill set for the choices that the organization has made is going to be important, because that impacts costs and efficiency and all of the related elements. Maintenance readiness, I think especially for those colleagues in the mining industry, you've seen some very interesting examples in the last few years where plants have been built and then they don't operate up to spec. Are we allowed to say Eskom on this presentation? Our local power utility is a good example of how maintenance readiness can get very horribly done wrong. And so we're seeing a lot of demand coming out of the market for planning for maintenance, the skills, the budgets, the spares before the plant actually starts commissioning. And so that helps us a lot from a maintenance readiness perspective. The last 2 points, very quickly, building an ecosystem is the only intelligent way we see going forward for companies that operate across a complex geography or across a very complex asset base. We can't be experts at everything, and certainly our value proposition to our end consumers will be enhanced by choosing the right partners. So we're seeing some very interesting trends emerging around how clients contract for things like technology or service providers to make them a more compelling story to their clients and to make sure that their supply chain complexities are managed and maintained. We've spoken about the green economy, so I'm not going to cover the demand for responsible maintenance in any detail. And since Vayan is going to talk about the careers of the future, let me just leave us by the talent and learning points by saying, because maintenance is changing and because our population age is changing and because digital literacy is changing across our workforce, understanding the skills gap and how our employees learn is going to be fundamentally important for us in winning the war for talent going forward. So with that, I'm going to take a breath and pause and stick to my timelines and stay out of trouble and just quickly check if there are any questions before we move on.
No questions. Okay.
Right.
Thanks, Stefan. That was a good job. Really went through it. And as you noticed, there's a lot still to say. So we will be hosting this webinar. As Stefan said, have a look at our marketing channels. We will also send out specific emailers about that. And then please register for the event because I think it's worth a while to go into the details of all these topics. Moving on, Adrian.
Yes.
Today marks a very special day for you. I'm sure when you and Arnold and the guys sat around the table, plus minus 31, 32 years ago now, yeah, you didn't really think of an international company at that stage, but that is where we are today. You've successfully built this company, you've brought Pragma to where we are today. And on your shoulders rests a huge responsibility to make sure that our offerings, our solutions are relevant and that it will help our clients to be sustainable in their asset management. So one question that we would like to ask you is, what specific innovations did Pragma develop and implement over the past 2 years to adapt to the changing world? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. And again, with regard to the statement of being 32 years old and building the company, I must admit that it's not one person that can build a company. We've got wonderful personnel. There's many people that work for us that's now working at a client base or different place, but they all had a hand in taking the next step to build a successful company. And I think to be 32 years old and still be relevant in the marketplace is phenomenal. And we would like to build on that success. I was thinking about the question, when you said, this is what you want me to talk about. And there's two things about innovation. First of all, you have to look a little bit into yourself and into the organization. Are they ready to innovate? And are they prepared for a pandemic, like COVID? And then, as we heard from Peter, can you ever predict the world going forward? 3 years ago, we haven't heard about COVID, and a year ago, we've got a full-on war started. So from that perspective, we don't know what's next. And I've looked at some CNN stats, last night in terms of world economy and so on, and you can see people are confused. Some graphs are going up, some graphs are going down, and people are just totally confused. So from that perspective, we, within Pragma, also sat down and said, what is the things that we need to do to prepare our organization? And there's three things that we started doing. The first thing that we started is to look at our culture and in our people. So we started with a program called Isikobeat, and Isikobeat is there to make sure that we as an organization really understand our mission, that there's big trust along employees, that we design alternative controls because people are now working from home. Self-management is becoming a major theme. Extreme stakeholder alignment. We don't see each other every day, so we need to make sure that we align where we're going. And then we still need to innovate. So we also need to create that platform for innovation. So from that perspective, that was the first thing that we did to implement our values and culture models and try to adapt them for agility, try to adapt them for uncertainties within the marketplace so that we can take care of that. The second one is the whole hybrid working model. Now, it's very easy to say, if we can work it out, or spend 2 days at the office and 3 days at home. But the disruption, and we've seen that in the beginning of COVID, it was easy. Everybody was at home, everybody was psyched up. We're now in a new working environment. But now that we've settled down, we can see all the cracks, in those things. And this is where our culture is picking us up. But we'll be also busy refining the way that we work. But for our clients, we've got our hybrid working model, and it's been phenomenal the way that we now increased our contact with our clients, the way that we are serving our clients better, and the way that we also increased our efficiency and productivity. So from that point of view, it's been excellent for us. And then from a cost-saving point of view, we also shrink our offices, our physical office space, which is obviously cost benefit that's passing through to our clients. So from that perspective, really been an important move, for Pragma. And then we also restructured our organization to make sure that our levels of authority and our levels of participation in the organization is more equally spread. And there we've, and you can go and look at the website, we've got now 4 divisions running forward. The first one is that Stefan has spoken about is advisory and academy, where we now join those together, and their main vision is to make sure that they distribute knowledge throughout the world and to our clients. The second one is asset management services. So a services organization these days is very specialized. If we look at the supply chains, if we look at all the disruption in terms of getting to sites and so on. So we've grouped that together and busy changing their model of working so that we use the digital era to really accelerate our way of working. And then OnKey software, which is our digital platform for asset management. So we've grouped that together and made that in the development, the implementation, and the sales cycle all in one. Dirk is taking responsibility for that. And the one thing that we're now seeing is that the whole team is now suddenly getting closer to their clients and the client requirements. And we can also see that different work environments and different countries need different solutions. So we're also busy in our software environment to make sure that OnKey is agile, that we can quickly adapt to working conditions, and that we use the digital era to transform the operating models of our clients. And then condition monitoring, where we take a deep dive into equipment and into the failures of equipment. Johannes, who's driving that, is really accelerating in terms of the way he's engaging with clients, and our aspirations, for condition monitoring in the future is really big. And so that's another, focus area that we've created. And then from office space point of view, we've retained a number of offices in South Africa. We've got an office in the Netherlands. We also have value-added resellers in Mexico that's serving Mexico, Brazil, and also now Texas these days. So from that perspective, we also have colleagues around the world that's helping us to broaden and implement our solutions throughout the world. So that's the first part, and change that I think is significant and for our clients to know about the preparation that we've done for innovation. But what is the real innovation that we looked at? And I've split that innovation into two parts. The one is from a services perspective, and the one is from a product perspective. Now, from a services perspective, the first thing that we started exploring is asset health monitoring, and the whole thing of making sure that we can, over a distance, measure and monitor critical assets in the workspace and provide solutions to keep the reliability and availability of those critical assets, high. So that was the first, for us. The second one is software implementation, is to do that remotely. We're now sitting here in the tip of South Africa, in an office or at home, and we're now busy implementing our software solution somewhere in the world. And we've done a few of those very successfully. Obviously, there's a lot of change that need to happen. The way that you set up your data, the way that you train people, and so on. And so from that perspective, a lot of innovation that went into that. And then training itself, the whole virtual instructor-led training is absolutely taking off in the world. If I just think about the number of reliability engineers that we're currently training around the world in different languages, the amount of planners that we train, the amount of knowledge that we transfer via the digital platforms that's available. And I think we've really made a step up and innovated our solutions to make sure that we can bring training to each and every person, wherever they sit, wherever they want it, in which language they want it. So from that point of view, we really, I'm grateful for all the work that's been done by those teams. And then from a consulting point of view, we've adopted a hybrid model again, where we say, we sometimes are restricted to travel, we're restricted to get onto site, but we need to continue to get in front of clients and help them with their problems. And we've also adapted our ways of working to make sure that we understand the problems and that we also can deliver on solutions for those problems over the internet. And this is where, video calls, this is where combination of physical visits, some information from the client, being supplied via cell phone or, via simple videos. And that makes it practical to also start with delivering those services. So a little bit on those services, and then the products. I think important that we also need to make sure that our products adapt, and that we adapt them to make it worth our while and make it worth our clients, to use these things. And I spoke about asset health, monitoring. Currently we've developed here in South Africa a solution for backup generators, and that's really taking off. And that is going to be the key for our clients going forward, where the limitation of the usage of our services is not for large companies, and we need to look at all the assets. They can now choose 1, 2, or 3 critical assets within their environments, which we can now monitor and help them to manage on a daily basis, all out of a central office. Obviously, that eventually will be backed up by a knowledge center, so that we also, for specific pieces of equipment, have the knowledge internally, like Peter also showed, where we can tap into knowledge with regard to that specific asset. Then, in terms of mobility, there's many applications and apps that we've developed that where our mobile app can now be used. So people don't need to go into office. Our clients don't need to go anywhere. On their mobile application, they can actually manage their entire asset management portfolio. There's work manager, there's a work portal, there's a contractor portal, there's a field engineering app. And one of the things that we've also done in Hotel Group is to do automated planning and scheduling. 2,000 artisans, running around, and there's not one planner involved in it. So from that perspective, really proud on what we've achieved in that area. And then, to end off, and I see my time is almost done. So is OnKey and our OnKey Plus that we're now busy releasing. We're on the verge of releasing the first commercial version. There's some of the pre-versions that's already been implemented and tested at clients. But from August onwards, we will have a full commercial version that will go into all our clients, and that will give them the ability to enable, well, we would like to enable them, to change their operating models to adapt to the digital world. That's the view and the vision that we have, and I think we've shaped OnKey Plus in such a fashion that it can be used in different environments, it can be in different organizations, it can integrate to existing systems, it can adapt new technologies from new systems out there. So really seeing that as the core for our clients to move forward and to transform their operating environments in this digital environment. So I think that's a few things that I want to mention today. But again, also saying to our clients, make sure that you engage with us, via your contact person or the consultant or the OnKey implementation team that's with you. And we will also make sure that we bring the new message to yourself, so that we understand your environment and that we can also take some of our new inventions and start implementing it. And again, it's going to cost a lot. So we also very much focused on a cost-effective, value-adding solution. So yes, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. Yes, it's available to all of you. So thank you for that, and thanks for that question. Thanks for answering it. And also at this moment, also want to thank all our clients that's supporting us and that kept on supporting us through this pandemic. And there's more to come in terms of turmoil. And we, with yourselves, is continuously working to make sure that asset management is working for you, that asset management is working for your bottom line, and that it can add value wherever you are in the world. Thanks a lot, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. It's very exciting to hear what Pragma is about and that we are doing. And while we were watching Peter speaking about the blockchain and automating all the processes, it's actually very exciting to be able to say that we are already doing such a lot of that with all the applications that we have and automating the workflow for so many clients where even invoicing and things are immediately done at site. So yes, we're definitely there and we're very proud of that. Great.
Thank you, Lisa. And I think it's an exciting era waiting for us.
We are incredibly proud and very honored to have been listed as one of the leaders in the Verdantics Green Quadrant for EAM software for 2022. We've been working incredibly hard over the last number of years and actually decades in building this world-class enterprise asset management system. And by being recognized by such a leading independent research firm as being one of the leaders is great validation for the work that our team has done. And we will continue to invest in OnKey as a leading enterprise asset management system, and we will continue to serve our clients in such a way, and looking to bring more exciting and new features and see how we can transform the world of asset management through the use of technology.
With Pragma's 24/7 asset health management service for business critical assets, you can have peace of mind that your most valuable asset will be available when needed. Our generator-specific solution has been a lifesaver for several clients who used to work their way around crisis management when load shedding struck. Like them, you can also sleep better at night knowing that the health of your backup power is monitored and managed.
Over the last 2 years, Pragma has spent significant time and money in an effort to improve our overall cybersecurity posture from the way we develop our software, how we search for and mitigate risks in our environment, how we deal with cybersecurity incidents, and how we protect and host our clients' data. These are just some of the areas that have been reviewed, documented with policies, and implemented with international best practice in mind. All of these measures have been building up to ISO 27001 certification, which is one of the international standards for information security management systems. We are currently busy with audits and hope to be fully ISO 27001 certified within the next couple of months. Being ISO certified will give our clients the peace of mind that Pragma takes cybersecurity seriously.
Ramp up your succession planning with our tailor-made learning pathways for operational managers, reliability engineers, maintenance managers, maintenance foremen and supervisors, maintenance planners and schedulers, as well as maintenance artisans and technicians. You can speak to us about further customization of these roles for your environment. These courses are available as public or virtual classrooms, giving you the flexibility to better manage your team members' time away from work.
The culture within an organization directs the steps of its people. Isikobit is our drumbeat. It's how we do things the Pragma way, internally and at our clients. It's given everyone a space to be innovative, to align efforts between different business units and assure consistency. By encouraging self-management, we drive commitment, taking full ownership of responsibilities, and inspiring confidence in support of Pragma's growth.
Are you struggling to decide on which transformers to monitor online? Let Matech assist you with online monitoring solutions for your critical transformers. Matech has a team of experts and specialists who will guide you in choosing the right technologies and solutions for your transformer criticality and reliability. There is no need to look any further. You are at the right place. Let's work together.
Next up, we have Bayan Jooste. He's the head of the Asset Care Research Group at the University of Stellenbosch. Welcome, Bayan. You are welcome to also share your slides. Take over from Mel, if you're ready there. So, yeah.
I must proudly say, ex-employee.
Ex-employee. Yes, he used to work for the Pragma Advisory Services side or the Academy side, yeah, before he joined the University of Stellenbosch. Okay, Bayan, over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Can I just check and you hear me well and see my slides?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Yes, thanks for the opportunity to join the session this morning. First of all, I must just put a disclaimer forward. So when Lisa approached me to do this talk, I said to her, well, I'm actually not qualified because I'm not a career counselor and I'm also not actively researching careers. Nonetheless, I was still invited. So I'll give you some observations from my side. Obviously, I'm with Stellenbosch University. So I'll share a couple of my observations in terms of the direction the university is going into, specifically regarding engineering, and also some things that I've picked up from my students that also obviously has come through my research group. So first, if I look at a quick agenda of what I'll be sharing with you. First of all, asset management perspective from Stellenbosch University. Obviously, I'm from the engineering faculty, so it will obviously be an engineering perspective on asset management from Stellenbosch University point of view. Key initiatives towards Stellenbosch University's future positioning, not only in engineering, but I'll focus it down afterwards from looking from a big picture to engineering and then towards asset management. Future positioning initiatives specifically in engineering as we see it. And then I'll try my best to do this topic justice about some current and possible future trends in asset management careers and some observations that I've made from my perspective. So first of all, I think it's important just to calibrate in terms of our offering in engineering and looking at the different departments and also specifically where the asset management or where we look at asset management, the skills, capability creation of that within the faculty. So we've got 5 departments, the civil engineering department. So there are some focus areas, as you can see, that the civil engineers are focusing on. They've got a specific area, which is construction and engineering management. And in that space, there's a connection to facilities, construction management in the or asset management in the civil engineering sort of space. Then we've got the traditional electrical and electronic department with the typical related topics and focus areas that they are looking into. Thirdly, the industrial engineering department. So this is my home department that I form part of. Our focus areas is engineering management, manufacturing, operations research, and then also the quantitative systems modeling and operations research and those kind of things. Within this department, obviously my research group, the asset care research group functions. Yeah, we always have a debate whether the group it must be listed under engineering management or operations research, but I mean that's a sort of an academic discussion. So we form part, or my research group, obviously in asset management forms part of this department. Then mechanical and mechatronic. So there you can see their focus areas. I think observation to make here is that when we look at asset management and maintenance management, this is the only program where there is actually an active module delivered in support of maintenance management. I'm the lecturer for that. It forms part of their theme of mechatronics and automation and the design thereof. But also it's interesting that this is not for the full year group. This is an elective module for mechanical engineers. Typically I compete, or this module compete with 3 other modules, and normally the throughput per year in this module is about 30 students per year. And then lastly, our process or our chemical engineering with obviously their focus areas. So just to calibrate in terms of our offering from an engineering point of view, this is what you look at from engineering with the specific key points where there's a focus on asset management or interaction from a skills development point of view. So the next question then is, if we look at Stellenbosch University, where are the university going and positioning themselves towards the future? So obviously there's many objectives, but one main one that I think is relevant for this discussion is the School for Data Science and Computational Thinking. So in 2017, 2018, a large contingent of university management, including deans, vice deans, did a round trip around the world to visit some leading universities to gauge where the tendency and the future goes in terms of how these universities are positioning themselves towards the future. And one big thing that stood out, or that was taken away from that process, was the emphasis, future emphasis that are expected in terms of data science and computational thinking. So this school is is a multi-faculty, multi-inter and transdisciplinary setup within the university. So it's not sitting within a particular faculty. It is an overarching school, which obviously has got various programs on postgraduate level as well as undergraduate level that links up to the school, or that forms part of the school. You're welcome. In some of these cases, I've provided you with a QR code that'll take you to this. So on this page, you can actually have a look at the launch video of the school to gain more insight as to how the university is positioning itself towards this. Further, maybe just to make it a bit more tangible, you know, what's included or what some of the programs included in this program. So as illustration, what you can see here is the multi-faculty principle, where there are various programs that supports the school and that makes it across disciplinary and multi-faculty specific, or across faculties. You can see the engineering one. There's 2 programs currently in the engineering one, which I'll elaborate on in a moment's time, but there's also medicine, science, economics also has programs in this. This is just a snapshot of the postgraduate programs. There's also other undergraduate programs and initiatives also in support of the school. So if we then look at data science and bring this future thinking of the university closer to home, to the engineering department, there's a couple of initiatives that that was put in place. So in our department, the industrial engineering department, there was the fourth chair in data science that was established. Currently, Prof. Andries Engelbrecht, who is an A-rated researcher in data science and computational thinking, is heading this research chair up and taking the lead on that. As part of this chair, we've also established a master's degree that is a structured master's degree in specifically data science. Traditional thinking in the university, and also the reason for that is because of the economics behind it. There was a large focus on research-based postgraduate studies. However, in the past few years, this has changed, and we see more demand for these structured type master's or postgraduate degrees. So what's the difference between a research and a structured master's degree? So it all has to do with the size of the thesis or the project that you need to do. So a structured program, half of the program consists of modules. So you can see in this program, there are 8 modules that you need to take, and then you add a mini thesis for achieving the degree. The traditional research master's degree is obviously a full thesis with no modules. So that's in principle the difference. So we established this degree specifically in data science. Together with that is a diploma also in data science. And the difference between these 2 programs is that the diploma is not obviously a master's degree, it's a diploma, but you only do the modules in data science and not the mini thesis. Then also what was established in the electrical and electronic department is that they have dedicated a bachelor's program to data engineering. So this is also, as I said, one of the initiatives forming part of the School of Data Science, where we provide postgraduate and undergraduate courses to support this initiative. What's the other trends? So, yeah, as I said, the one is the data science, but what do we see as other initiatives or other trends within engineering, and what are we doing to facilitate that? Internet of Things, technology, disruptive technology we've spoken about, we've heard from other of the speakers this morning. We've established a research chair, which is a joint venture between the industrial engineering and the electrical engineering faculties, specifically to do and conduct research in technology, Internet of Things, and to get to grips with the future trends that is obviously affecting and influencing industry going forward. Also, in support of this collaboration, we've got a digital industrial management and engineering, or a DIME double degree exchange program with the University of Rietlining. So they are experts in technology, learning factory, in skills enablement, and all of that. So basically, we collaborate with Rietlining University also to gain insight. There's an exchange program where there's exchange of essay and German students. So we try to send our students there to gain knowledge in their technology and be skilled up in that. As well as sending German students here to experience the South African view. Then a further development is a second structured master's program, specifically in engineering management. So there's been a trend and a demand for mid and early and mid-career engineers and professionals to skill up in management sciences and engineering management sciences. So this is quite a unique program. It's a hybrid mode. It's also a 2-year program, again, 8 modules and a mini thesis. However, you can dial into this degree totally online. You don't need to be in South Africa or to come to campus. It's not an in-person, well, there are in-person attendees as well, but the fact of the matter is it's fully hybrid. So you can enroll for this program and study it from Timbuktu if you want. This is specifically positioned for the new normal that we are in, with so many things happening hybrid and online. So in the last quarter of this presentation, let me try and give you a current and my view of a future outlook in terms of asset management and career opportunities. And as I said previously, I've got a sort of a limited worldview on this, but a couple of students have gone through my hands and I know where they end up. So let me make a couple of observations of my experience and what I found. So you've heard earlier, my research group is the Asset Care Research Group. So maybe just some statistics to put my group in perspective. The group was started in 2012, and since 2012, we've delivered 65 postgraduate degrees, or in the process of doing that. I think just to reiterate my observation about previously, the university focused a lot on research. So you'll see the research, the top 3, the blue, red and green are research programs. And you can see a large proportion of those students, or of the throughput through this group, was research based. As I said, the outlook is that young and mid-career engineers and professionals are looking more specifically to structured programs, and are not so much interested more in the research programs. And I'll make a couple of observations about that. The data science, the last item in the legend, currently I have 1 student that forms part of the structured program in data science. Quite an interesting experience. It's the first, this year will be the first group or cohort of students that will graduate in that degree. So we're also learning as we go along with how to improve it and make it better in the future. If we look at the status of maybe, or not maybe, of full-time versus part-time students. So again, traditionally, if you look at students that has graduated and students that's currently in the program, it also reflects the previous way of how the university thought up to now, is that the blue you'll see and the red is basically representative of full-time students. So you can see that a lot of students in the past attended full-time postgraduate studies, and a significantly smaller proportion is part-time students. And that makes sense because it's much more difficult for a part-time student to come and study a full research project instead of a structured program. Again, reiterating the history or where we come from, and the difference in how the university is positioning itself towards the future. So further, what are we doing in this group to give further perspective about the student profile or the population profile that is studying as part of this group? So if you look at the IAM's asset management module and the 6 asset management categories that I'm sure most of you are familiar with, you can see the number of projects that we have completed or are busy completing within each of those subject matter groups. So it gives you an idea of where typically the majority or the focus is. But yeah, overall, we do research across the board in this field. What type of research are we doing, or what are the outcomes that we produce? So there's also some numbers and some types of research outputs that we've produced. So you can see 19 of these were in support of decision making, which is also reflected in the asset management decision making group. There's some data analytics. This is not only machine learning and data analytics, but it's also simulation and optimization studies. Then there's also some conceptual frameworks and some other research outputs that we've produced. So more interesting is maybe to look at from a career point of view, and I've done this analysis to try and gauge where the engineers that has studied asset management and maintenance management, where are they working today, and what are the profiles, their job profiles. So by analyzing my students' LinkedIn profiles, I was able to categorize their current job profiles in this graph, and it makes for interesting reading. So a quarter of the students that has studied as part of this group find themselves in management positions, and management category there is senior managers, either owning their own business or either in senior management decision-making positions. Then another quarter is what I sort of labeled the consulting or the project engineers. So they're not working in their primary discipline as an engineer, but they act as consultants or as service providers, team leads, and those kind of positions. What was quite surprising to me was the green part. So 18% of these students have indicated that they are doing their engineering, their primary bachelor's engineering direction. They are employed in those positions in companies as a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer, not consulting or project engineers. 16% didn't provide any data, so there's a gap on what they are currently doing. But then we see the data analyst and the data science students also coming through. So 5 of the students currently works in that environment, and then another 5% or 2 works in research and training. So that's myself and my colleague Pilani Zimkumi. So I think that's interesting if we look at where students are currently, and obviously it's a product from the university's approach up to now. So this, if we do this talk in 5 years' time, I would expect that it would look differently in terms of the future and what is foreseen by the university in terms of the demand for its products. Another interesting one is where these students find themselves. So I think this is Stellenbosch is located in the Western Cape. So I think it's obvious that we can expect that a lot of these people remain in Cape Town. But you can also see that there's a strong indication of students coming through this program that is internationally based, especially Europe, but it also is reflected in that double degree program where I've got some German students that's also included here. So maybe to wrap up, so this is what I could gather from my worldview in terms of careers and where people are finding themselves. But let me make some final conclusions to stick to the time. And I want to leave you with Heather McGowan's comment that she did at a conference in 2019. And it was also reflected previously that in the past, we've learned once in order to work. However, in future, we're going to work in order to learn continuously. So on top of that, it seems like there's still a demand for traditional engineers that remains, also from these asset management graduates. The same we see in engineering management, same demand for engineers taking leadership positions and managerial positions. There is now a demand for focused, structured skill acquisition. Students aren't interested anymore in the traditional research-based programs, but they want in their job what is required to go and do a course or a degree or a diploma to skill them up for that requirement. Post-pandemic hybrid online demand. So on postgraduate level, we see that we've geared ourselves for that. We don't foresee that that's going to change. And from a university point of view, higher education point of view, we see the demand increase for that. Data science, if we look at the School of Data Science and how the university is positioning itself, currently value realization is still a challenge because these machine learning algorithms and applications is in many cases very context specific and cannot be reused easily. And I think what can be remedied, or this can be remedied by further collaboration and research hubs. We see in the university that large corporate organizations is approaching the university to establish research hubs in data science to tap into the expertise of the university and their research that they're doing. So I foresee that we're going to get more of that, specifically at Stellenbosch. But I think it's also worthwhile to maybe in the future approach other universities to see what they foresee in the future for their degree programs. Thank you very much. That's all from my side.
Great, thank you very much. Adrian, to me, thank you, Ryan. It was very interesting. University of Stellenbosch is obviously one of the larger institutions in South Africa and Southern Africa that looks at engineering. There's other universities as well, but we would imagine that the trends would be more or less the same between the different universities of what you guys are busy with. It's interesting to see all the master or the postgrads that's coming through and the different courses that you guys are doing. Thank you for that. And what I also find is it's good to know that our maintenance planner qualification that we offer is also very specific. As Ryan said, people are interested in something specific for their role. It's no longer just a broad course that you want to do or a direction that you want to take. So anybody also interested in sending their planners on our maintenance planner qualification, it's an NQF 5 and a formal qualification that you can get and train your people. So thank you, Bayan, and you will be able to follow him with the QR codes when you look at the presentation afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, Lisa, just to supplement, Bayan, the interesting trend, that I'm also seeing in your presentation is the whole thing about, data science to make sense of data. I think a lot of people has got a lot of data, and we talk about all these machine learning algorithms and AI and prediction and so on. But there's still deep study needed, and it's very specific focused. I think you've mentioned, that these algorithms are very complex and they can not be reused in wherever you go. So wherever you go, you need to again, set up something very specific. So, but in the future, it's just going to become, more and more significant. And I think the career in data and data science, and to understand it, and to take different pieces of data, put it together, and predict the failure, really waiting for that moment, because I think that will be much more accurate than trying to do an RCM exercise and do a theoretical exercise and predicting something like that. So also good to see that trend. And as you said, people are welcome to submit their applications to take part of that, or be part of the research. Thanks, Bayan.
Thank you, Bayan.
Thanks.
Lisa?
Okay. In the meantime, you would have seen that Martinez Berger has joined me. Martinez is, what's your title, Martinez?
I'm a head of services in the Onki software company.
Head of services, Onki software company. So obviously responsible for all the implementations.
That's right.
Looking at all the integrations and making sure that our clients use Onki effectively.
Absolutely, and that they're all very happy.
Lisa, if I may, there's 2 questions that were posted and it's related to Onki. So not asking that Martinez answered now, I just wanted to read to you because you can't see all the chats. So the one was from Jermaine Reddy. And that was on the previous presentation before the leg stretch. He asked, could you please advise on the latest version build of Onki 5? So I think we will share that information with all the participants here today. Just some expanded information of what's happening with Onki 5 and the excitement around it, Onki 5 Plus. And then there's a second question from Dita. I'm interested in the system on which Pragma can work. At the moment, it's only Windows and Internet Explorer. Will there be changes in this direction too, and when? So I think we also have a very nice write-up, a one-pager write-up that we will share with all the participants today.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Melania.
Yes. So Melanie will take care of those questions in writing to the different clients that has asked, and everybody that's on the group, we will send you those that's relevant information about Onki Plus and then about Microsoft and so on. So next up, we have 2 clients that is very specifically your clients, Martinez, and 2 very interesting clients.
Very interesting. And both, I think for both those clients, if I think of the projects, I mean, we're talking about disruptive from how the insurance industry and the FM industry challenged us as engineers and the way we think and the way we look forward and how we want to apply our technology. Amazing projects, but what's more amazing is our applications and systems and tools adopted to their requirements, and the match that we got at the end. I think Ria and Cheryl will share some of the successes and what they achieved. I think it's just over the moon with what our teams and as a client achieved with applying technology and client requirements.
Right. So first up, it's going to be Ria and Minar. They are from a company called King Price. So for our international clients, King Price is a local insurance company, but there's nothing local about them. They are all out of the box and everywhere, all over, and they even took Onki, turned it around and made it Phoenix. So Ria, over to you to tell us your story.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning, and I hope everybody is doing well. Yes, I'll just kind of quickly share my screen, and if everybody can just confirm that you can see my slides.
We can see them. You can put them into presentation mode.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, if I can just get to my mouse onto the right screen, that will also help a bit. Apologies.
I have to say King Price is one of the companies, the most exciting adverts. I love that new advert that you guys have of the delivery services after the price hikes of fuel, where the guys need to come and pick up somebody and run. I thought it was marvelous. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Yes, I'm going to dig in about on the grad purchase that everybody see, and I hope that you know, in the very near future, we will be able to make sure that we actually turn our clients' whole thinking about that insurance is actually not a grudge purchase, but it's really actually making sure that they maintain their assets and make sure that they are not falling behind on that. So yes, when we started this project, well, Felix is a year old now, to be honest, quite nearly a year old, the 1st of July. But this was an 18 months project which we run with the Pragma family. And I've always said to the team, I think that this is the most intact and natural contract that I've ever saw. And yeah, and it was a great learning curve for both of us out. So yes, I want to tell you about what Pragma have bring to the table for us to make our life much easier. And I'm going to focus in three of the main categories, which is the biggest bugbears in sectional title. I am heading up the sectional title industry or department in King Price, where we pretty much insure now 25,000 households. You know, when people think we've got, for example, 500 or 800 policies, you know, it's 800 insurers, but unfortunately it's not. We insure 25,000 households, which all of them can somewhere down the line kind of submit the claim. Then the lack of updated information and or data, what effect that have on our industry, the transparency about around assets, and then what the benefits of a central management system brings to the table for us, and then last but least, you know, what the measurements, you know, and what the verdict is for insurance to successfully implement central management systems to the environment. So the lack of updated information and or data is, why do we need that? Why do insurers need information and data on assets that they are insured? So I just want to give you, for example, a picture. Everybody is sitting in a room, and just lift your head and look around and think what is in that room. So we've got lights, we've got air cons, we've got carpets, we've got cupboards, we've got electrical points. And that is pretty much the assets that we are insuring, which predominantly is where the claims come from, and the roofs and the ceilings and stuff like that. And for us to be able to underwrite the risk and to optimize the information and to make sure that the rating and pricing are correct, that we really charge the right premium for the risk and the exposure that we do. And of course, you know, the claims handling cost, which is a very great, the biggest expense for insurers. Of course, marketing is always there, and then for us to identify market trends as well. So for us to have big data is definitely help us to make sure that we can optimize all the functions in the insurance value chain by applying the data to that criteria that I've just mentioned to you as well. Insurance has become very technical of underwriting because there's a lot of trends that's happening, which we don't have control over. And that is more how life happens, and disasters happens, and economic change happen. And then also we've got the global warming that also have effect on everything. But yes, we try to use the big data that we can combine and that we get from various resources to make sure that we are fair to our clients. And because it is unfortunately a two-way contract between the insurer and also then the insured as well. Right, then why do we want transparency about assets? Transparency is crucial in our life, and especially in my division. It's really important that we need to know the wealth and health of the assets that we are insuring. Yes, we insure some smaller ones, but we're also insuring critical assets, especially on our bigger clients like our homeowners associations, which is in with huge substations and transformers, which are seen in our industry as very critical assets, making sure that everything runs smoothly. But we also need to make sure that we can minimize the risk of assumption. When I started my career in the insurance industry, we didn't have this, we didn't have data. It was some information that we had on a piece of paper and some claims that the clients submit over the past 3 years, and we didn't know how it looks like. We didn't even survey much risk when I started my career. And so we don't really know till there's a claim and one of the surveyors or assessors goes out and we actually can see what's really going on there. To make sure that it's maintained. And how do we know that? We've adopted a very proactive survey procedure inside our company. So when a client do want to join the King Price family, we make sure that we go and survey that risk. And Nick and his team is really making big inroads in accommodating us as underwriting and the back office and the sales office to give us a much bigger picture of how the risk looks like and to reactive or proactively amend or what needs to be done on the policy, do underwriting or what else. And to make sure that that assets is still insurable. Unfortunately, economical change has a huge impact on the financial situation of building owners, that there's no money to really maintain, and the buildings are deteriorated, and every year that they do not maintain, that buildings and assets deteriorate much further, and unfortunately at the stage, that asset became uninsurable. So we need to make sure of that. And also then, what is the remaining useful life of the assets? And yes, it's very important to us, especially in my space, is making sure that that escalator or that lift that we insure has it come to its end of life, because it's going to tell us, what claims we can expect still on that asset. So it's also important for us to know that. We've also made some inroads in the past 6 years to also do the 10-year repair and maintenance plans for our body corporates. And that is exactly where we address all these things and assisting them to identify the risk and when do they need to maintain and replace or repair, and making sure that they actually have a budget to back up that maintenance plan. And then, of course, also what the insurance exposure is, what our financial expense will be when claims occur, making sure that we've got the right replacement value, which is the responsibility of the insured to share with us. But we've also stepped into that space in my department, that we do building valuations to assist our clients, and it's a value-added proposition to make sure that they really insure it for the correct replacement value, because it is important for the insurer to rate that risk correctly and really to receive the premium that we are supposed to receive for the exposure that we carry. And then, of course, last but least, is what I say is how much premium was we charge for that risk. And that is all that is so crucial. And if we know what the wealth and the health of the asset is, and what our exposure can be. All right. So then on central management systems, it's so important coming out of this industry for the last 35 years. You know, it was an email war. When I started, it was still telefaxes and fax machine wars. And I think it's something that will ongo, but with Felix that we've launched a year ago, we made sure that we bring everybody in the value chain all together on one platform, and that is our owners of our units, which I said that we've got pretty much 25,000 of them. Our building managers who needs to manage the buildings more effectively, who also needs to make sure that the supply chain service levels are managed, and then also the tenants. There's a lot of tenants in our buildings, owners that really just buy units for investment purposes, and also, you know, they are end users, and we need to make sure that they also know what's going on. And then, of course, our brokers and our stakeholders, which is also including our managing agents. We've got two direct models, which we deal directly with managing agents, and then, of course, our brokers, which is one of our crucial models as well. And I believe it's very close to my heart that we really have put together an ecosystem where we bring all these role players together on one platform, and be transparent to make sure that they know what's going on in our offices and our service providers' offices when we do the insurance, handle the insurance, not only claims, but also on the underwriting side as well. So yes, Felix was born. Lisa have been saying being disruptive. Yes, we like to be disruptive. And Felix was the brainchild in coming when we started our journey with Pragma, our family. And yes, they've developed some quite amazing apps for us that work so closely together. I always tell to the team, the apps is like a bunch of credit card, depends on which one you want to jiggle today, because there's different people that integrate in that. I'm just going to start quickly at the right bottom. That is Felix, our underwriting utility. That is where our clients got 24/7 access to policy information, where they even can request some amendments. So we really don't have that email war anymore. Where our clients can actually chat with us on the Felix feedback friend, where they can chat with us and tell us, you know, how our service are and our service providers are. The damage side is more for our suppliers, and that's where they will do some damage reports when they need to go an assessment. The chat is really like a WhatsApp chat, somebody that start a topic and everybody reply on that. The Felix Claims Companion is for our stakeholders, where they are able to submit claims and even track the claims. And then the SRA admin is where we make sure that the security and everything in our users' access are maintained. The workmate is for Marianne's team, the guys that do the hard work, making sure and manage all our claims. Then the Grail connection is the direct API connection with our backend system, which is also our financial system, where everything happens and all the financial transactions happen with, but it's so seamless and integrated. And I will elaborate on that a bit. Then the Workforce Buddy is also for our service providers. The Felix Userment app is also internally, where we make sure that we manage our users. And then the Felix Access Alley is our BI dashboard, which really help us and Marianne and the team to make sure and see where there is exceptions in the claims management process. Right, then who's Felix? Yes, in partnership with Pragma, as I mentioned, 24/7 access. We have an automated supply assignment, online quoting and approval of invoices. And really, which means that is when the client, for example, report a claim, we validate the claim automatically, and the supplier are immediately assigned on job scheduling to that job or the claim that's been submitted. And off they go and make contact with the client and make sure that we indemnify the client and make sure that everything is done and we repair and replace immediately, because they can submit their they submit their damage reports, and they actually have a picking list, a shopping list as I call, where they actually quote from as well. So yes, we have the delay we can identify in our inside real dashboard where there's exceptions, where a service provider are out of his SLA, or where we're waiting for feedback from a client, or whatever is the case may be, the delay may be. As I said, our suppliers manage all their work execution on their applications and invoicing in a single solution. I've touched on the validation of the claims, and then, as I mentioned earlier, on the in-depth asset register to specify claims on a component level. The example that I said, just look around in the room that you're sitting, say if there's a claim, the assets are already populated in OnKey. So if for example, the ceiling is damaged, you will really just click the ceiling, and if there's lightning, we will click the lightning, the lights and the electrical plugs in whatever is damaged. And that is what we want to do, is that we can actually go and check how many how many claims and money are we spending on these assets. Yes, I said integrated, and then we actually have control over our claim spend, and because we agreed labor rates, component rates, and building rates, which our service providers are already have a shopping list where they can tick from and do that. Right, the system, I've touched on that. You know, we've got six integrators there where everything comes together. It is an asset-based risk management service, supply chain, where everybody, and of course then the procurement services as well, where we make sure that our suppliers work according to statutory regulations as well. Okay, so the verdict is we are very proactive. We can detect fault detection very quite earlier, quicker. We have faster project delivery. There's no email wars. There's a lot of savings and quite some factors there. We've shortened our project schedules by 7%, our operation costs by 9%, and then also thanks to the collision management, we've already for this year we've got the cost saving up to 10%, and all this counts up. At the end of the day, it helps the bottom line of the insurer so much as well. Right, in the verdict, said it's shorter claims cycle. But yes, I think the big winning for us, that 65% of our claims, which is water related, are fully automated through Felix, and where there's no human intervention at all. And if we calculate everything up with reinsurance and everything that we need to pay, we really had the attribution by much as 20%, 25% on our claims expenses of just making use of a consolidated claims management system and making sure that we minimize excessive claims spent by the SLAs and everything that we've put together there. So I'm going to leave you with this with Mr. Mars Buchner Fuller, and said we are called by the architects of the future, not its victims. And I think it's in our hands that we make sure that we're the architects of our own business and not become a victim to the industry, making sure that we step out of that. And that's from my side. I don't know, Minor, you've joined. I don't know if there's anything that you want to add, or if there's any questions that I can answer now.
Minor, anything from your side?
From my side, I can just say that this has been quite a. Can you all hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you.
Let me just switch my video on so that I can. Yeah. So from my side, it's just a. I would say this is a paradigm shift in how, in a multi-stakeholder environment, how you can drive efficiencies. But I think the key aspect of this is to have all your stakeholders in one platform. That's not easy to achieve, and I think hats off to Ria for making that a reality. And as a result, you get all these efficiencies in your information management, and you can drive better outcomes. So for me, this is a great example of what can be done with technology. And it's just such a practical outcome that we've experienced, which is very positive. But the other joy I've had dealing with Pragma, and this is more on the project delivery side, it's just the professionalism in which this was approached. This is quite a formal project management approach to implementing this project. And me coming from a engineering and a project management background, I had deep appreciation for that, because a complex project like this can quickly go from a controlled environment to chaos. And we had a lot of scope change to deal with during the implementation, but Pragma really managed this like consummate professionals, and I really appreciate their project management approach. But and it's always a pleasure dealing with Pragma. And what we have now on market, I think, is a pioneering approach to the community schemes offering that we have. And our offering is unique as a result of the tech stack that we now have, which is I think puts us gives us a great competitive advantage over the rest of the industry. So I'm deeply appreciative of what has been accomplished.
Thank you, Minor, for those kind words. We really appreciate it. I think it's ditto.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a family, like Ria said. It's a partnership and a family.
Yeah.
And one comment I want to make, I was so thanks to Ria and the team on our side, Martinez, that made it work, and you heard it from Minor. But I think the one thing, being involved right in the beginning, and from an innovation and a paradigm shift point of view, it's also a mindset of the two companies together and senior management. And I think that collaboration and figuring out and taking a leap of faith into the future is so important from both sides. And it took quite a while for both of us to realize we're stepping into a dark space here. But we both decided the dark space is going to bring us something new. And I think that's what we experienced there. So thanks a lot for you also on that side, Minor and Ria.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Next is Cebu.
Next up is Cebu. I think from a Pragma side, we've also come a long way with Cebu, and currently busy with a big project with Cheryl Basson and her team. I'm not probably going to repeat myself, but I think Cebu also in the facilities industry also really forward thinking, disrupting the industry, and always challenging themselves and also their suppliers in enhancing their services and enhancing what they're providing to their clients. Lisa, with you and Cheryl.
Right, so we did a recording with Dirk Jansen van Rensburg, the Managing Director of Anki Software Solutions, and Cheryl earlier this week, an interview. So let's hear what they have to say. Thanks, Mel.
Hello, everyone. I'm joined here by Cheryl Basson. She's the Managing Executive at Chebo Facility Solutions. Cheryl, you're a valued client. Chebo is certainly a valued client of Anki and of Pragma. And thanks for sharing your story with us today. But first up, perhaps just share with us, what criteria that you guys consider when you selected your EAM solution?
Thank you, Dirk. Part of our business case, there were actually two key items that were important for us at Chebo. The first one being local presence for our EAM operational systems service provider. The reason we were looking for local presence, and that particularly in South Africa and across our wider African continent, is that local presence gives you cultural alignment. So there's a consistency and alignment in terms of the way we work as South Africans and Africans, the way we, Chebo, run our business, and potentially you do, and then particularly the way we work with our clients. In addition, local presence was important for us in terms of accessibility. Our EAM system obviously powers our core business, which is our service delivery offering to our clients, and having a local software presence from our provider provides us local capacity and capability. That means it's easily accessible, and there's quicker turnaround times in terms of issues or challenges that we raise with you. And then the final thing, very important for Tsebo, was cost certainty, as it is in any business, regardless of the service delivery business. And obviously, we are South African based, where we run our EAM system out of for our clients across the continent. And your ZAR based pricing was obviously delivered for us cost certainty.
Since you've implemented OnKey at Tsebo, what is the value that you've seen from this project and from the system?
The most important value comes around actually after we got through the business case is obviously the functionality that the OnKey EAM system was going to bring to our business. And that was tied up with our key criteria in terms of our digitization agenda. So we get in principle 3 things already with the operations that we have migrated to OnKey. The first one is your embedded IoT enablement via the QR codes and the barcode functionality, which basically allows us to automate our operational boots on the ground processes. It helps us speed up the turnaround time of our work order management, whether it's planned preventative maintenance or reactive work orders, and leading ultimately to a quicker path to our data and analytics, which obviously we need to base decisions on as a business, and we provide to our clients in order to deliver value into their organization. And it's not always just cost savings. The second one is the willingness of Pragma, and it was pretty easy that we have managed to build elements of our procure-to-pay process into our core operational system. And that has principally come from the self-service functionality that comes out of OnKey EAM. And so that self-service has been embedded in our organization, in our self-performance teams, who actually deliver services and remedy work orders on the client site, but also our significant supplier base and subcontractor base that we rely on. Their artisan teams are also using the same self-service functionality. And then the last one has been integration. So out of the gates, we have, as our first pilot, decided to integrate our OnKey EAM system with our internal Tsebo ERP system. And that has gone live. And in our experience, it has been pretty painless, which is a great basis going forward for us being able to sell that functionality and that integration into our client ERP systems, where our client wants the same data to understand their own portfolio. And we have also started integrating certain of our standalone but best-in-class other workplace services, technologies and applications. For example, in engineering, we have BMS systems on our client sites to integrate those alarms. We also have on our energy side of our business a bespoke metering and utility management system that also generates load factor alarms, etc. So we are going to be integrating that, and then the opportunities are endless to integrate, say, our cleaning apps and our security division apps also into that core EAM system where we manage our work orders for our clients.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that you've highlighted certainly those 2 points, one around automating some of your core business processes and seeing the cost saving and improvements there, but secondly also integration. A lot of people are struggling with integration, see it as a difficult and expensive thing to do, but ultimately if you do it in a structured and a well-organized way, it shouldn't be that tricky, and the business benefit that you can derive is tremendous. And I'm glad that you guys there at Tsebo is able to see that benefit, certainly with integration with your ERP and potentially with some of the other stakeholders in your value chain. Yeah, and then lastly, Cheryl, perhaps maybe you can just touch on a couple of points when it comes to the partnership between Tsebo and Pragma, and how you've experienced the partnership up to date between these 2 companies.
Okay, partnership has been great. It was actually a true partnership relationship with our EAM operational system service provider was also part of our business case. It was a key criteria. Down the road, I can absolutely say that Pragma, we have achieved what we set out to do. We've got a lot more to do as a partnership, but basically working together, we have been very, very pleased with the partnership and the principles that Pragma has embraced. All our challenges, be they Tsebo specific or client specific, in the service industry, there is not always one size fits all, but the Pragma team and the local presence helps there again, has really, really shown the commitment to roll up their sleeves and problem solve together with us to mutually come up with the solutions we are seeking. And we're hoping that we have a great basis, and we're hoping to grow that partnership going forward. Very happy indeed.
Brilliant.
So,
and it's a mutual sentiment. We've We love working with the people from Cebo, and I do believe that together we are stronger and we really offer great solutions and services to the marketers. Thank you very much, Cheryl, for sharing your story with us. Yeah, and I hope this partnership will last for many years to come. Thank you very much.
Likewise. Thank you, Pragma.
Thank you very much. Yes, so that was Cebo and that was King Price. Any last remarks from you two?
Yeah, so again, being involved with Aubrey in shaping some of the future thinking, and again, I think Cebo is on the journey of being very disruptive in the facilities management market, and that's going to give them a competitive edge over their customers, over their competitors in the near future. And I think just by taking better care of assets, shorten the time between repair cycles, and start using the principles of digital twins and automated monitoring of certain of their assets is going to make their structures leaner and they're more competitive. And I think they'll be able to tackle more facilities, larger facilities, and more types of facilities in the South African and African market. So really looking forward to the disruptive in this area also.
Sure. Fantastic. I think from your side.
I think also, Lisa, maybe something that stood out from a technology point of view, and Cheryl also touched on it, the amount of people we're exposing to the applications and to the technology and ease of doing that is also bringing lots and lots of efficiency. I mean, it's rolling out to hundreds, or I want to say thousands of contractors. And the take-up of the users is amazing. And that's also bringing lots of value to our clients. If you think of the past, long training sessions, lots of struggling, those days are not with us anymore.
That's fantastic. That's very good news. Thank you to everybody who attended today. We really appreciate the time that you've put out for us to spend some time with you. As I said, the recording will come to you. And yes, we just want to wish you well on really rethinking and reimagining and reinventing the way that you look at your asset management, as we've seen our clients have done, the two examples that we showed today, and take some learnings from what Peter shared, take some learnings from what Stefan shared, Adrian's input in terms of Pragma's changes and everything. And yeah, let's take hands together and make asset management work better for all of us and become a bit more future-proof with all the things that's going on around the world and that's potentially there as a threat for our companies. Thanks for your time, and go well, and God bless. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.